Excellence in Textbooks Award. So we're pretty proud of that. And hopefully you see some things in there that are different and that you appreciate and will find useful as well. So let's get down to it. What are some things that are different? What are some things that are new? It's now called Modeling Real Life instead of just Big Ideas Math. Modeling Real Life because we want to put more application into every lesson. And so that's purposefully done not only in the practice problems, but also in the way that the lessons are introduced and delivered. This second one, learning targets and success criteria. I was just talking with a couple of you as you came in. I'm not sure how much that you have done research-wise or reading or looking, listening, but the work of Dr. John Hattie and Visible Learning is some very impactful research right now. And so we looked at that, and with that have learning targets and success criteria for every single lesson, every single chapter. And so our purpose is to help students be a little more responsible, be a little more independent about where am I in my learning. Activities, pacing. Maybe when you use this program currently, sometimes getting through that first day of the lesson and going through those activities takes more time than you had anticipated it could or should or whatever. And we hear that, we listen to that. It was written that way because in 2010, when we first started writing these books, teachers were very, very, very traditional and very much just, here's the lesson, here's how you do it, here's some practice, let's move on. And the research out there and the suggestions from National Council of Teachers of Mathematics was, we need to get our classrooms more student-centered, we need to get more engagement, more discussion, etc. going on. And so when we created these lessons the first time around, we created them such that day one was total student interaction and working with the partner, and then following up with the stepped out examples. We just know, however, that that didn't work for all teachers. So we've made a really big change in that, I feel, in that the lessons are still taught in 2 days, but that first portion of your lesson, that starting part, there's only going to be like 1 or maybe 2 very much shorter activities. We call them explorations, so that they have a little bit more of a tie to what's done in our high school series as well. And those explorations are only intended to take about 15, 20 minutes and then move on into the lesson so that you get into the procedural. Now, I would never tell you that if you have the greatest ever math conversation going on with your kids, you wouldn't stop like, oh, the Big Ideas consultant said this should only take 15 minutes. No, if it's something that's great, keep it up, keep it going. It rolls right over into example 1 and example 2, as you already know. But we've just tried to help you with that timing a little bit to make that better. One of the biggest requests that we have gotten through the years with the assignments was people wished they could make assignments by choosing problems from more than one section. And that is something you can now do with our online platform. When you create any assignment, it can be from several sections within that particular chapter, or it can be any chapter, or it could even be another grade level. Like I mentioned before, you're going to have access to every single resource we have, kindergarten through Algebra 2. So if you want to just be as ornery as your students are, throw in a question from 3rd grade one day and just see if they even notice there's something different in there, or why am I doing this, just to be ornery. Okay, you can do that. A lot of teachers have used this very successfully in that whole idea of distributed practice, where I'm in the middle of chapter 4, I'm doing lesson 4.4, but when I make that homework assignment, that online assignment, I'll pick a couple problems from 4.1 and 4.2 and 4.3 so that we continue to practice them along the way, and then also the ones that we're doing in section 4.4. So real good research again right there. We now have a skills trainer that is part of our program. So this is like something you would pay extra for with other programs. This is additional practice. Every single standard has skills within the standards. And every one of those skills, a student can click on it, and they will be given 10 extra practice problems. Online, immediate feedback, am I correct or incorrect? And when I am in that skills trainer, if I miss a couple of problems, I usually work with teachers and tell your students, just stop. If you missed a couple, stop. There's a video attached, watch that video, and then go back and try again. So those skills trainer are available for students. It's on their own desktop. They can access them anytime. You don't have to assign them to your students. They can access them. And from their website page, they will also see any of the skills that are pertinent to what you are teaching right now, so that they could go back and get additional practice. As well as, let's say they're just not great at working with rational numbers. Maybe I realize that as a student, maybe my teacher is helping me figure that out, and so I could even go look at 4th and 5th and 6th grade work to refresh some of those ideas about operations with fractions and decimals, and then I can relate that to the rational numbers. So I have access to so much more. Dynamic classroom, maybe you're using it now as a tool where you put up on the screen the different examples, and you have PowerPoints that you can click through to go through each of the examples. That's still there, but now your students have it too. And it's much, much different. It's very interactive. The warm-ups and the start thinkings are online. The students can do them online, and you see immediate feedback as to whether they were correct or incorrect. You know the try-its that are in the middle of the lessons where they do their little formative assessment checks? Students can do those online, and you get immediate feedback if they had correct or incorrect. You also can get feedback from the kids with a thumbs up or middle or down. And so you not only see that they got it correct or incorrect, but you see where they are in their learning. So this is another way for students and you to work together to see where they are in their growth and where they are in their learning. And then finally, and I've only said this about 15 times, but here it is again, you do have access to everything, kindergarten through Algebra 2. So for students that need to brush up a little bit on something because they struggle, or for students who they've got this, so let me just take a look at what would this lesson look like in geometry? What would this lesson look like when I take this idea about functions and I use this again when I'm in high school in Algebra 1? They can take a look at some of those concepts and standards and skills as well. So lots of things available for you and for your students. So let's go ahead and take a look a little closer. We still have the regular pathways. The green is 6th grade, the red is 7th grade, the blue is 8th grade, and it's still 10 chapters in each of those textbooks. This matches the Common Core standards. We have correlations. Chance mentioned he's from right here in the area, not me. I live in Missouri. Okay. Tomorrow I'm going to be in Illinois. On Friday I'm going to be in North Carolina. Next week I'm going to be in Wisconsin. I'm just saying, I'm in a different state 2-3 times a week. So we have correlations to any state standards, any state needs, etc. And if your state standards change, then we will make sure that what we have is correlated to your needs. And if not, we will write you a lesson that you would have online. So we will support, we will get your students and you what you need to support their instruction and learning. Now, some of your students, I already know because I asked Krista beforehand, some of your students take algebra in 8th grade. And if your students are in algebra in 8th grade, then we have a different pathway for those students that you might want to consider. And a lot of schools, they have their students take regular 6th grade, regular 7th, and then they say, oh, these students are really sharp, let's put them in algebra. But then what happens is they haven't had all the content prerequisites because they skipped a whole grade level. Different schools do different things. So what we've done is created advanced 6th and advanced 7th. And the way these are, the way these are configured is advanced 6 is all 10 chapters of 6th grade plus 5 chapters of 7th grade. And then Advanced 7 is the other 5 chapters of 7th grade plus all of 8th. So this way, your students miss no standards. Now you might say, how can I get through 15 chapters in a year? That would be very challenging. Number one, your students are pretty sharp that are doing this pathway. But then, you know there's some content that is at a maybe just a little bit higher level. For example, in 6th grade, you're going to work with rates and ratios, and in 7th grade, you're going to work with rates and proportions. When you are doing those topics, you can do some combining. You don't need to do every lesson in both chapters. You can pick and choose. You'll also see the same thing in some of the geometry content, probability, etc. So we work with you, and we have a different pacing guide and a different suggested order that would help you to make sense of that and not be so overwhelming to have to cover 15 chapters in that 1 year to get into algebra. As you move into algebra, then all of the lessons have the same kind of a format, and it is the exact same platform as you have for your middle school students. So your students have that nice continuity and nice coherence from one grade level to the next. Can I stop for just a second and see if you have questions about anything, something I could clarify that we've talked about already? Isn't that awesome? All right, perfect. Okay, so we'll move on. And I just want to talk a little bit about the research. These are brand new resources. You're going to look at some of these having taught before, and you're going to see some problems that do look the same. Because if something was working, we didn't get rid of it. But if something could be better, we changed it, and we wanted to make it good for students. So we really did do a lot of research. We looked at Marzano and Classrooms That Work. We looked at Joe Bowler and the idea about those positive mindsets. I mentioned the work of John Hattie and visible learning with your learning targets and success criteria, as well as National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. That's at the forefront. We are still creating every lesson to have that rigor that you are expected to create and to have in your lessons. It's there for you. That's the way we set those up. The mathematical practices, these are the things good math students do. They are still called out in every lesson. There's suggestions from Lori Boswell as to how you might make that part of your lesson, and your students see it and see the importance. This is Sophie Murphy. She is John Hattie's protege, and she wrote all of our learning targets and success criteria. So when we took on this whole idea of visible learning, we didn't just read a few books or attend a couple of conferences. First of all, yes, we attended conferences in the United States when John Hattie came here. But then Lori Boswell, our co-author, and our vice president, Denise McDowell, they went to Australia. They went to his sessions in Australia. They visited his schools. They sat down next to his students. Where are you in your learning? And when you guys take a look at our journals, you will see that we have places in our journals for your students now to write down and to rank themselves on where am I in my growth, where am I in my learning. That's something that we've done. And this is John Hattie right here. Lori Boswell showing John Hattie, here's my new lessons, here's what I'm thinking. How does this support what you are trying to do in your research and in your instruction and learning? So when I say we have immersed ourselves into this, we have made this part of who we are, I'm not just giving this lip service. They've really done their homework. And then finally, progressions are important. I don't care what anyone can mention, can describe, can say they do. We make connections from one grade level to the next. And they're done purposefully, and they are done in a way that helps students use what they already know and then apply that in a new context, a new situation. That's why the application part that we've taken on is so much more effective, because we want that all to work together. So you will see all of those progressions in every one of the domains, all through the standards, and that will be part of our commitment to you and to your students that through that coherence, through that continuity, it's going to support them and help them with their mastery. So let's look at a couple things and how they might be different, how they might be new. If you want to go to 6th grade, page 104, 7th grade, page 180, and 8th grade, page 138, that's just one suggested place you might go. You are welcome to choose your own grade level, your own chapter that you just might be in love with. These are just 3 chapters that go nicely together because they all deal with ratios and proportions, and then that follow up into functions in 8th grade. Now, right on that first page, you're going to see those learning targets and success criteria for the chapter. This is our big picture. And you're also going to see each of the learning targets and success criteria on the next page for every single lesson. So that again, you get a sense before you even get started teaching of where am I going. And here's the thing that makes it different for students. This is where I'm going, and this is what it looks like as I go there. Students don't just see, this is my goal for this lesson. They see the parts that they go through to get to that goal. How am I successful? What am I doing along the way? So that they have more guidance as to where they're going, which helps them be better at figuring out, am I getting there? So we've tried to give you lots of support and lots of opportunities to help the students along that trail. Another thing that is different about our what's available chapter by chapter, we have STEAM videos for every single chapter in every single book now. And these STEAM videos are another way that students are going to have that application opportunity because they see math used outside the classroom. And each of these STEAM videos has a performance task tied to it, so that an opportunity for not just a problem here or a problem there, but for an in-depth look at tasks that are going to take them maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes to really look through, have some good thoughts about that, make some good decisions about their problem solving, and then you will have rubrics that help you and help them to see about scoring them. So I hope this doesn't volume like blast you out of your chairs. We tested it before, just in case. But this is a little montage of several of the STEAM videos that we have available. All right. Thank you.
What in the world did you get yourself into?
I don't know.
It is possible to simplify 90 degrees.
Rotational symmetry.
Orange, red, orange, or yellow.
So anything else?
That ever famous, the angle when we shoot pool. Thunder, lightning, kind of a correlation. There's Lori in the classroom.
So there are actually 5.
This one is the chapter in 6th grade with the human body, the circulatory system.
This information. Hurricanes are known to produce.
This was a hard one to show when I was in Florida.
When?
Nobody said it was going to be a breeze.
It's unusual. It's a decagon.
We did it.
That brings our total up to 17.5.
Running a marathon. There's Lori. Boom! In the classroom. That's what she wants to support you in. That's what she wants to give you good ideas. You guys already know Lori's notes, right? Is there anybody in here that has never read Lori's notes? Don't even raise your hand. Lori's notes are just there to support you, just there to give you some different ideas about how you might like to do things. Can you recall, and you don't have to give me examples, but can you recall reading something from Lori's notes and thinking, well, that's a good idea. Or, I used to do that, why did I stop? Or maybe if I did try that, the kids might catch on to this a little quicker. She just has suggestions for things that you can do to start the class, motivate your students, asking good questions to take their thinking a little bit deeper, ways that you can assess as you're going through the lesson. So just good ideas to support you. She is all about instruction and learning. So in this performance task, you're going to have problems for your students to work through. You're going to have an overview for you, the teacher, to see how you might present this, what materials you need, etc. And then you're also going to have a rubric that's going to help you give the students feedback, because that's what's really important. It's one of the things we learn in visible learning and working with John Hattie, is that feedback to students is so valuable. And so we'll help you with that rubric. You're also going to find that there are problems that tie back to problems in your lessons. And I'll make this one just a little bit bigger and ask you to notice who's in this problem. You are. You are. We've taken out any names that might distract. Have your students ever been working on a problem and got off task for a good 2-3 minutes because it was some name they couldn't pronounce? Yes, I know. We've all been there, right? That's not going to be happening to you because it's you or you and a friend. We still have the problems like this where we call it now you be the teacher. And this is from that 6th grade lesson with the circulatory system. It has to do with conversions from English to metric. And we still have those kinds of questions where it's you be the teacher, you and your friend, etc. And this is where students spend more time thinking about how they would explain, how they would work through this problem. When a student can explain their strategy, their rationale, their thinking to another student, they're at 90% mastery. And that's what we're trying to bring in more opportunities for that conversation. And you're going to see highlighted modeling real life over and over and over among the problems in the exercises, because if they're not taking it to an application level, we're really not doing everything we need to do to get them ready. And I'm not a big person on the reason we're doing this is to get them ready for high stakes tests. We want them to be ready to be successful adults. We want them to be successful as they graduate from high school and either choose a career path or college. That's what we really want them to be, good problem solvers, but if they can do well on their standardized tests along the way, that's a nice bonus. So that's what we're trying to support. So just like I mentioned, the lessons that we had previously and the way these lessons are set up are very much the same, in that you're always going to have rigor in every lesson. The 3 elements of rigor: that you have conceptual understanding first, then it's followed with explicit instruction, procedure fluency, and then we take it to an application level. That's still in every lesson. They start with explorations, you move into stepped out examples, and then during the lesson itself, not just for homework, you're going to be working on application problems. And we've got enough that you don't have to make things up or go someplace else to get extra problems. We have enough to support this entire scheme of rigor in every lesson. So let's take a look at a lesson so that you can see that. You can choose one of these 3, or you can choose any lesson that you'd like to look at. We always have a favorite, don't we? How many journals? Is there only one journal in the room? Yeah. Alrighty, so if you don't mind, hang on to for just 1 second. Turn in your journal, please, to the lesson.
4-3. 4-3.
Okay? And then just tell me what you see. What do you guys think he's going to see from what you've done before with journals?
4-3. Let's see, we have
type back, or like exploratory
Investigation.
type activity. Investigation.
And how does it look compared to the textbook?
Black and white.
It's black and white, the book is in color. What else? A lot of times I hear people say, that looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
go to the next page.
When would it be good that it looks exactly the same? The idea is that you have charts, graphs. Is there a graph on that one? Okay, a graph that students are supposed to use. Oh, forgot, sorry. Here, let me get grid paper for everybody. 5 minutes later, we're back on task. Or copy this chart, and 20 minutes later, the last student finds their pencil, and right? Okay? The whole purpose of this journal is part of that engagement, part of that keeping kids on task, helping them by having those number lines, those charts, those graphs, those visuals already in front of them. That's the purpose of that journal. And you're going to have that again as you are looking through this. So you're going to see that support. So that when you look at, and this is the 7th grade version of the ratios and proportions strand, you're going to see the learning targets and success criteria called out, very first thing in your lesson. Then you're going to see this exploration, and remember I promised you much shorter. The math practice called out about using graphs and the importance of being able to show that visually is all right there in your lesson, pretty much like it used to be, except the learning targets are new and success criteria and much shorter, remember? Because then, before we've even gotten through half of the class time, we're ready to move on to the key ideas and the examples. This examples, going through those examples, is the procedural fluency portion of your lesson. And remember those try-its that I mentioned? These are the formative assessment in the middle of your lesson. These are what, when we see what your students can do online, you will see that those are available, that students can do them right there on the spot, and you can get that immediate feedback. Are you noticing Lori's notes as you go through? Because she still has lots of good suggestions for questioning. She has lots of good suggestions for differentiating, for working with ELL students, for working with students who are working below grade level, etc. So be sure you keep noticing Lori's notes. And then we get into the third part of rigor, that application. Did you notice that as we were looking at the procedural parts, they're highlighted in red, but when we get into application, they're highlighted in blue. And just as we looked at the try-its and where are they and how are they supporting instruction in your classroom, you will also have these little self-assessment stops, if you will, for students to take charge and to kind of take a look, where am I? And in your journal, what do you see for that?
You have the self-assessments in here.
The self-assessments are in the journal as well. So they can physically circle, where am I? Does that mean something with our,
The left screen went off, but it still looks like we're recording on the
all
right.
right, so I can keep dancing?
You may.
Is that right? Yes. Perfect. All righty. So if you don't mind, now would be awesome to pass. You were willing to pass earlier, but just so everybody can see that this is part of what you have in every lesson. That self-assessment, where am I in my growth, where am I in my understanding, because we're always wanting our students to be moving forward, of course. Now here's something different for you. Do you remember that at the end of every set of exercises there was fair game review? Okay, we've moved it to the front, to the very beginning, because a lot of teachers weren't doing it. And the purpose of that was so that you would kind of refresh, think about some things you've learned before, because we're going to use it in an upcoming lesson. So we put it a little more forefront so that teachers would notice it and not just skip over or not even get there, whichever the case may be. And you don't have to do every one of these, but choose a few. And with that idea in mind that as you move forward, refreshing this is going to help them be more successful when we get to a new topic. Then you get into your concepts and skills practice, as well as your problem solving. You see that red and blue again, just to kind of highlight it to you and your students, and for their evaluation of themselves. And then plenty of problems that are going to take that from procedural to application that you can work on together in class or even assign outside of class. Because assignments are set up the exact same way. The assignments come from the exact problems from the textbook. Lori still has suggestions on students that are at different levels. And so you still would have that for day 1 and day 2, if you will. So how are we doing with this? Can I clarify something?
The lessons, were they set up for 50-minute blocks, 90-minute blocks?
How long do you have?
We have about 45
That's
some
what we
days.
did. It is seriously 45 minutes-ish. It's about that length of time is what we were hoping most schools would have. there are schools, and we have different pacing guides. There are schools that do blocks, you know, and do like a 90-minute block every day. It's a little tougher, honestly, when you have that whole block than when you have 45. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before or not, but it's a little tougher. But it's set up to support you to be able to do this such that that would work for a 45-minute block time. Anybody else? All right. So everything is available print. You've got your textbooks. They are available in English or Spanish. I don't know. I know we talked a little bit about some ELL students and support for them. We also have everything available digitally, and that means that students can access it from our website, or they can download as an app. And they can download it as an app on multiple devices, a device at school, as well as a device they may have at home, even their phones. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't love it on their phones, but I'm not 12. You know, they're pretty used to it, and they see a lot better than I do. So students work well with it. And I want to mention that when you are watching this via the website or an app, there are video tutorials for every single example. It will read it aloud in either English or Spanish. And there are also interactive manipulatives at point of use that students would have available to them to support what they're doing. So how are we doing? All right? Alrighty, so now I'm just going to ask, I'd like to talk to you about some of the resources that are available online. Would you rather just keep listening? Or would you rather get online and do them yourself? Tell me where you want me to go with this, because you are the boss of me right now. You can tell me which way you'd rather see things or do things.
Maybe it'd be nice if you told us what's new online,
All right.
so we knew what to play with.
Okay. Is that all right with everybody? Yep. Okey-doke. Then let me get into dynamic assessment system. All right, so dynamic assessment system is where you can make assignments. And I've got a little video that I will show you. When you do get online, these 3 bars over here, this is the way that it's like a menu, and it will open this up to more opportunities, more options. And when you open that up, you will see assignments. So that's where this is going.
In assignments, teachers can create practice and assessments. When creating an assignment for practice, questions can be selected from any Big Ideas Math course, chapter, and section.
So you can see.
Questions from multiple sections can be combined into a single assignment.
Notice you can pick even DOK, emerging, proficient, advanced types of problems, lots of individualizing and differentiation.
Before assigning, teachers can select which students will receive the assignment.
This is the same. You can pick who you
They
want to
also
get your
have
assignments.
options for supporting students as they take the assignment. These include need help videos, live tutor, the ability to check their answer and limit how many times they can check it, and a variety of calculators. We can address these support options further by viewing the assignment as a student.
This is what a student sees
When
when
a
they
student
log
logs
in.
in,
This is their
If they have an
dashboard. It's
assignment
very similar
available,
to mine.
it will appear on their dashboard. Students can
These are
check their
problems
answers
one
as
at a
they go
time.
to get immediate feedback. Checking their answer will indicate whether the response was correct or incorrect, but not what the correct answer is. Students can click Help to watch a tutorial video. The video will walk through an example step by step. If a student needs additional help, on select problems they can access a Big Ideas Math tutor, who will have a live typed chat with the student. The student can then correct their response and continue through the assignment. There are a variety of question types available, including
This is what's
graphing,
really nice. All the different
numerical
types
response,
of technology enhanced
multiple
items.
choice and multiple select, free response, and drag and drop. Once a student submits an assignment, data immediately becomes available for both the student and the teacher.
That's a student view, and they see, if they missed one, they will see what the correct answer should have been. So that's something that they can get and have on their own before they come back into the classroom. Okay, so that's you creating an assignment, your student taking the assignment. Do many of you use the live tutor right now? Live tutor opportunity, when you assign problems online, they're all listed for you. You will click chapter 5, lesson 6-2, whatever. And within that, all of the problems will show up. In the past, you recall, it was just like number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you had to look in your book and then click. Now, the problems show up so that you can just look without having to have your book open. You choose the problems you want. You can go to another section, choose some more, put them all together, name it. When you're going through and picking the assignments, there will be problems that have a little icon. It looks like a little figure with a little, like a pointer. Okay, that means that that's a tutor problem. And so if the student tries that problem, misses it, and then clicks on need help and watches a tutorial video, tries the problem again, puts their second answer in there, and it's also wrong, then they will see a prompt that says live tutor. They can click on that live tutor. That's a math teacher or a grad student that is sitting in our office in Erie, Pennsylvania from 4 to midnight, Sunday through Thursday. That tutor chats. We don't talk to anybody. They will chat with students. They won't tell them an answer, but they will talk to them about what did you try? How have you done a problem like this before? Let me show you, let me get you started, et cetera, et cetera. And they're odds anyway. We only do them for the odds, of which they can get the answers to anyway. So that's not the point. The point is learning. All right? So most teachers, you may have seen on there, you can give the students as many chances as you want. Most teachers will give them 3 chances, because if you miss it once and then you have to miss it twice to talk to the tutor, then you'd like to have that 3rd chance to try it one more time. We want your students safe. This opportunity for the live tutor and this help online has been going on. This is the 4th year. We save transcripts for a minimum of 3 years. We've had one time in those 4 years where a teacher said, my student was concerned about something the tutor said last night. So we got right online, and guess who might not have used appropriate language during the conversation?
Student.
Oh. All right, so the people are all vetted. They're just like us. They're people that care about students. And so we're not going to do anything to put your students in danger. It's a great help for students. Parents love it. That there's that that extra access that just supports what's going on. All right, so if you go ahead and decide to make an assignment and look at it online, you will receive a report that looks something like this. As you hover over any of these are the different students and what they scored. You'll see if they got it correct, if they missed it, if they got it partially correct. You can also get information, like if I see that Andrea missed problem number 3, I can click on that X and it will tell me what she put that was incorrect. So a lot of times that gives me good information about what they missed or why. Also, besides this performance, it will break it down by skills and standards for me. So if I break it down by individual skills or by standards, when I do, it names, like there were 3 students that need help on this particular skill. And if I click on the number 3, it will tell me who those 3 students are. So that's really helpful for me to maybe make some small groups or, help some students that need something independently. Another thing, it will also tell me which questions were missed the most often. Because this is what teachers have shared with me, makes the biggest impact on their teaching, is that they don't grade homework anymore. They don't read everything off and then, can you repeat number 10? Can you repeat number 15? Will you do number 9? Will you do number 10? And no one's listening the whole time that you're doing all this work, right? Okay? Instead, they look at their report, they pick the 2, sometimes 3 problems that were missed the most often, and they talk about those 2 problems. And then they move on. Because how many times, by the time you got finished grading homework, you look at the clock and 20 minutes is gone, and you really question, like, what did we just do? So this can support you to maybe avoid that situation. So, answer presentation tool is another tool. You've had this, maybe you've used it, maybe you haven't. Answer presentation tool, and here's a list of like all the different tools that are available, different manipulatives, and there's some different ones for K5, 6, 8, and Algebra, Geometry, Algebra 2, but remember you have access to all of them. If I click on that answer presentation tool, let's say that I did want to grade all of my homework. I can just type in here, I type the grade level and the section and the chapter and the section, and then I put down what I assigned. I assigned 22 to 28 even and 45 to 48. And then I click show solutions, and here they are, so that my students can just see them right there, grade their homework. But then I also, if a student says to me, Mrs. Weber, number 24, how'd you get negative 48? If I click on that problem, it's all stepped out, all worked out, so that again, I can put a little more of the work, if you will, on the students, the responsibility. You look this over, you see if you can figure out where you got confused, so that they're taking some of that ownership as to what questions they might have or how they can move forward and figure this out. All right, so another nice tool to support that whole idea of student learning. Now, the ancillaries are the same. You still have a skills review handbook. You still have the student journal, an assessment book that has work quizzes and tests different than the ones in the textbook, and you have resources by chapter, which are 4 extra practice pages, but now the first practice page is a reteaching. It's for tiered intervention.
Can you
So-
show that?
Can I show you? When I get online. Or, yeah, she has a book, yeah.
No, I don't have, that's what I was looking to see if I had a resource. but-
That's okay, yes, we can see it online, absolutely. Alrighty, so you've got a reteaching page, then you've got just a regular practice page. You've got a page that's still enrichment and extension, because you've got some students that need a challenge. And then you've also got that puzzle time where it comes out with silly answers like King Henry the Great or something. Alright, so you still have the 4 extra practice pages. There's still an extra practice page in the journal as well. So 5 extra practice pages, plus the problems you have online, plus that whole skills trainer. There really are lots and lots of support problems and practice for your students. We talked a little bit about these being in Google Docs. Currently, these 2 are in Google Docs, and this is one that we're kind of going that distance with our tech people, like more and more people need this. So this, you guys would just be another district that would be fuel for that fire to get that change. Alrighty, so this is an example of that new dynamic classroom. Those of you that looked at the lesson from 7th grade, this should look familiar. When I get online, either as a teacher or a student, this is going to look very, very similar. I go to my chapter, I pick my chapter, pick my section, and then from the warm-ups, like I said, to the exploration, to each of the examples, you're going to be able to see it, your students are going to be able to see it, you can interact together online.
The dynamic classroom follows the scope and sequence of the textbook, with resources for starting and ending the chapter, as well as each lesson. Selecting a section gives access to all of the components of the lesson, like the explorations, which students can complete digitally and with audio support.
The tables represent 2 different ways that red and blue food coloring are mixed. Represent each table in the same coordinate plane. Which graph represents a proportional relationship? How do you know?
English or Spanish. Remember I told you that's Spanish too? And you'll hear a Spanish example in just a minute. You can also
In the
mute
next
that
part
if
of the
you don't want
lesson,
to
where
listen to
students
it
are
out loud.
introduced to core vocabulary, they can click on the term to get definitions both in English and in Spanish,
Glossary
as well as
has
14 additional languages.
expanded to
In the
14
examples, students can
languages.
watch a video tutorial.
Tell whether x and y are proportional. Explain your reasoning. Part A. Plot the points. 1, -2, 2, 0.
The speaker will continue to work through the problem, giving their reasoning and solution strategies as they go. These videos are also available with Spanish audio.
Di si X y Y son proporcionales y explica tu respuesta.
Teachers may choose to project the example using the click-through example,
So maybe
which
you
will
don't
show
want that
up on
audio.
full
You
screen
want
with
to
white
click
space
through.
beneath
This
to
is
work
like
through
your
it.
old PowerPoint.
Teachers can click in the white space to show the solution one step at a time. Advancing to the next part of the lesson, the try it. Students can do this practice in the
This little
dynamic classroom,
graph is what you will
and
click
teachers
on
can receive feedback through
to
the
see
formative
how your
check,
students do. And this is what it looks like.
where they can see how students performed on each question, as well as how they rated themselves on their understanding of the concept in the self-reflection. To assist with navigation as students use the dynamic classroom, teachers can use the flip to functionality,
If your kids are
which
not on
will
the
send a
same
link
page as
to
you,
the
does that ever
selected
happen?
students. That will direct
I
them
know.
to the content the teacher would
Sorry.
like them to see. Additional tools
So
for
you
ease
just
of
click
use
that little
include
clip
the
to,
learning
and
target
everybody
and success
gets a
criteria,
flip to, and then
map
click on it, and
tools
they're all on
and
the same page as
manipulatives,
you.
a space for teachers to record their notes and reflections on the lesson, as well as Lori's notes from the teaching edition, which provide relevant instructional strategies and support for the content at hand.
Or can I just, with the My Notes section, does that save it year
Yes.
to year?
Mm-hmm.
So that if you log back in like the following year, it's
Yep,
all still
or
gonna be-
tomorrow. Even, you know, like if you were planning over the weekend, and then you put something in there like a link to a video that you wanted the kids to watch or something, you know, that you wanted to bring up, yep, it's there. And it stays like in that textbook, so if you do that for first period, 8th grade class, then when you pull up your second period, 8th grade class, it's still there, because it's in your 8th grade TE, is what that's like. It's kind of like a Post-it note that you just put in there. Same idea, except it doesn't get lost. Don't dog you. All right, so this is the new dynamic classroom. This is another thing teachers were saying to us. It would be great if the kids had this, if the kids had these stepped out examples. They love this for students who are absent, and they watch these and don't have to just act like, well, I missed everything, what do I do? It's also great for kids who are in class yet absent, to have something to look at when they're at home. Their parents love this too. It's a really, really great tool, and the whole English-Spanish thing is another great support for those English language learners. Alrighty, so that's, excuse me, dynamic classroom. And the last new piece of technology, that skills trainer, is embedded in this intervention and differentiate as a quick little video of just what are the resources you have for those students that might be struggling.
Additional resources for supporting differentiation and intervention can be found in the Big Ideas Math online platform. Selecting RTI from the resources page narrows the results to those designed specifically for intervention support. Differentiating the lesson details alternate interactive lessons on key concepts in
These
each
are
chapter
favorite
for
among
emerging,
the support
proficient,
teachers
and advanced
that
learning.
have to come
These
up with a
files
lesson
include lesson
similar
plans,
to class, but
materials or manipulatives you may need for the lesson, and an answer key. To further individualize learning, students can access the skills trainer for all grade levels,
so
kindergarten
here's the
through
skills
algebra 2.
trainer. You
Students
click on
can
whatever
select a
grade
skill
level, all of
and
those
answer
skills.
questions for fluency practice. Students can check their answers and watch a video to see the solution to a similar problem.
Find each sum. Part A. The quantity x minus 2 plus the quantity 3x plus 8.
Can you get
Use
captions
the
on these
vertical
videos?
method.
Can you get closed captions?
Closed
Align like
caption.
terms vertically and
It's down
Teachers
at the
can
bottom
view a
here.
report
I'll show you when we
that
get
shows
live.
the skills students practiced,
Thanks for
the
asking.
date they practiced, their score, and how long they spent on each skill. Students and teachers can access online interactive games as well as printable
This is
table
another
games
thing that's
in the
really
game library.
changed because we've got the
Instructions are
K-5
provided
games
in
too,
English
and a
and
lot of
Spanish.
interactive games there.
Online
Before it
games
was
can
just
be
all
played
kind
by
of
one
board
or
games
two
kinds of
players
things,
on a single
which
device.
we did
The
on
online
purpose to get
games
kids
provide
to talk to
calculated
each other more.
support when a player
but
answers
You can
incorrectly.
do interactive games and still have that conversation going. So you would have all of the games that are available K through Algebra 2, just like everything else. So a lot more available digitally because there's a lot of districts like you guys where the students are one-to-one. And we want to support that and to give those opportunities to use those devices and help you to support your kids. So our goal is to grow with you. We want to grow with you from kindergarten through collegiate level. We want to grow with you from one lesson to the next throughout the grade level, throughout their time when they're here with you in middle school. And big ideas, just to remind you, we are only a math house. That's all we do. Earlier I mentioned that we can create any correlations to any set of standards. We can create extra lessons. And that's what we do because we are just math. So we want to support you moving forward, whether it's supporting you with an implementation training to get you started, or besides that implementation to come back in for a support visit in October or November. How's it going? What resources have you used online? Are you ready to try something new? Let's see how we can support you. Chance has already talked to you. He lives right here. Materials, just like today, brought all these teaching editions. Each year, your journals get replaced for the life of your adoption. He can help you with ordering them so that when it's spring and you're thinking about let's get ready for next year, you get those ordered. They arrive at your school over the summer. No charge to you, no shipping, etc. That's all taken care of, and you've got those new journals for your students every single year. No additional cost throughout the life of your adoption. So if you'd like to get online, this is your particular code. If you want to go to demo.bigideasmath.com, and at the bottom of the page it will say New to Big Ideas. You click on that little link where it says New to Big Ideas and enter this code. Then we can get you registered online and we can play a little with the online resources. And while we're doing that, I'd be happy to answer some questions or clarify something that I mentioned during the slides.
And also, I'm going to pass around some documents kind of highlighting what Barb's talked about so you can have a recap of what's different or what's new.
Katie or Mike, did you guys want to use one of the other Chromebooks? Did you want to use one of the Chromebooks?
Actually, I can't sign into it.
And should we want to sign in with your PPD?
We're talking to the district, and I was talking to Chris that we have Clever now. So next year, if the district were to stay with Big Ideas Learning, we can integrate with Clever, and we'll roster all your students for you.
Thank you for
So
remembering
roster
that,
students,
yeah.
you have credit count, that'll all be done for you. And it would sync with the system based on the schedule that the
Looks
district.
like you're, I'm
So
sorry,
say
can you
weekly.
repeat that?
Yeah, so
So Big Ideas,
they don't
maybe
even know
Barb,
that.
you want to go ahead and tell them?
Sure. When you register your students, you've got two options. You can, like when I was going to set up a pretend class earlier, when we were kind of discussing that, I just named a class, and within it there's a code, and then I could give that code to all of you to join my class, and that's the way some schools do. But with that, then students sometimes forget their password, just get confused, whatever. We can also just sync with your student information system so that when your technology guidance department work together and create your class lists, those class lists can sync with a program called Clever. And Clever then will allow you to log in. It's for like multiple uses so that you don't have a login for science and social studies and language arts and math. You can just use your same district login. So your students would log into the district just like they always do, and then there'd be a little Big Ideas Math icon, and they'd click on it and they'd be in.
Do those rosters change if your class changes? So
It
if
does.
kids move.
Every single night, the clever fairies come in. Every night at midnight, it updates. And so as quickly as your technology department gets the change, then that change goes to big ideas. New students who drop, whatever.
Okay, so the other question I had was about the language piece. You know, like we have the Spanish resources is great, but we have a huge Portuguese population. Like, there's, you know,
More
so
Portuguese
more than Spanish.
Okay.
And so, like, what are I know the vocabulary I saw is great, you have that in different languages, but what supports are available to help those students?
Closed caption would be like probably the only other piece that
Closed captioning.
would help, you know, that I can think of. We don't, I can't promise you that we'll go to Portuguese, I would love to. I would love to. There's several pockets around the United States. You know, where people would be arm wrestling you like, no, I need.
Right.
Man, you're not gonna get it. I certainly want to
Don't
support
save it
that,
though,
and
Michelle, because then
if
it's gonna
something
override
gets
your
as
other one.
huge as.
What'd you say?
It will override your other one.
I promise you.
Thank you.
Oh, so don't save it.
Sure, thanks for asking.
The account should
It's still, even though I go to the demo site, it still defaults to my regular.
Thank you.
On the very bottom,
I
like the
went
new
to
big
my
ideas.
and it says,
It
I can
folds in
see
my-
that you're a teacher. And it's
Really?
like, I don't wanna look at myself.
There should be two different sites.
They are, so when I go to that demo one, it's still, when I go to type in my username, it's bringing up the ones from my regular.
Thank you.
So I just didn't save the, I
You
used to
can
say
take any
username,
grade
but
level,
I
and then
just,
once
I
you're in
didn't
the grade
save the
level, you can pick a
password.
specific chapter
I don't know why.
in the grade
It was
level.
also, I found
And
one,
what you're looking at looks exactly.
Yeah.
there was a sixth grade
Skills
making
training.
now, between the
Sorry.
dot class,
Yeah.
for a login, and it just kept bouncing out because it was like, they brought you to the page, it was like a.
Interesting.
You mean for assigning? Oh, yes, I mean, but see, this would be like, first grade, second grade, you're not gonna have that information, so we can get it to you. I mean, I've got every grade level, what you're gonna have in your book is 6, 7, and 8. But I can absolutely give you digitally K5.
Correct, yeah.
I can't even find it.
No, that
Or
was
like if you just click on
for a demo
it,
last year, trying to register.
you know,
Save password.
major, you
No.
know, standards, and then within those standards, what are the skills?
Yeah, so you can get a basic report. Yeah, it takes some of the level and then they got what?
On skills training, you can get a variety of
Basic
different
skills, so
records.
you see the rest of that is
On the particular skills, which skills they visited, what their score was. You can get that by student, individual, or you can get like anybody in
Is
the.
it because I'm already logged on from my other big idea? I'm afraid to undo it.
Assessment means that you can, add a questions on there, you can change the questions themselves, what she would say is it.
Isn't it a password? I mean, is our email, right?
What would happen? I'm just wondering when you
We have a way through Clever.
What is
that
the balance? Is the balance scale tool new?
class, and then you have access. You can
I'm not too familiar.
Okay.
It could be, they added some new, manipulative, virtual manipulative.
I just don't remember it.
Yeah, good question.
Okay.
I'm just wondering.
No, after class.
Are we all online?
Yep.
So,
I'll get online too, and
yeah, could you show them real quick, Kristen's asking to make sure they all know the assessments are customizable now.
of course.
And then you would mention some of the options, just for what you can add.
Yeah, so in part of the roadmap, I mentioned part of the roadmap, the all customized questions, they will add numerical and open response. Hopefully this year.
What are you saying? Sorry?
For the customized, the different types of customized questions, which is great.
Oh,
On the
yes.
roadmap, they're adding numerical and open response.
Alrighty, so, I am not interested in making you do what I wanna do. You please click and look where you wanna go, but I'm just gonna answer a couple of questions that have been asked of me. This is my screen as a teacher. notice, and this is because I have a lot of pretend classes, and I've made some assignments. When I make assignments, they'll be listed right here. And then underneath, notice these are skills that would support the lessons like in chapter 5 of 7th grade. So I see those skills, I could mention them to my students. My students would also see those skills and know they could go to them too. These are like the math tools, the glossary, answer presentation tool, the STEAM videos, and others. These are a lot of the things we talked about. The ebook is still available, and the ebook is more like it's your book, but online. So it's not your dynamic classroom. It's like one more version of ways you can access materials. But this symbol right up here, this top right, these 3 bars, is the menu. The new tech term for this is hamburger. So if I say click on your hamburger, I kind of like to call it the 3 bars with no happy hour, especially this time of day. It's like, really? All right, so I click on that menu, and this is what opens up all those other pieces that I was interested in looking at. If I click on Skills Trainer, this is where I can get any grade level. So I can look at 4th grade work if my students are struggling with basic operations. I can also, once let's say that I'm back in 7th grade, I can not only pick 7th grade, but I can pick chapter 5, the chapter that's on those ratios and proportions, and here's the skills within each of those lessons. So it's really very helpful, and students can make this be whatever they want it to be. Just as a reminder, as a teacher, I can get a report that tells me each student how long they've spent on any of these skills. I can see by class which students went to particular standards, and I can even see over time. So I can see individual or as a group, either way.
When I click on that, nothing's happening though.
Me either.
Refresh. A lot of times, the first time, and I'm just going to say to you, anytime something doesn't seem to be working nicely, click refresh. It's kind of with our demo site and kind of because it's first time in.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for asking. I should have mentioned that refresh is your new best
You gotta
friend,
click on the grade, that's why.
just for a minute.
So when you default it, like, once there's a
So
chapter,
so the skills trainer is the type of thing where
there's no grade
I
assigned
can
to it.
assign it, or they can choose to do it either way?
Or choose a
You
chapter.
can't assign this right now.
Okay,
That's something that might change.
but I could tell them to do it.
That's exactly right. And
The
they'll
old-fashioned
do
way I can
whatever
assign
you
it.
say, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly right. You can say, hey, that there's a great practice on, adding integers, and there's a great practice on making equivalent fractions or whatever that would help you find equivalent ratios.
But it's not necessarily, I guess I have to look at it more. Yeah, okay.
And what a lot of districts have done is they just ask the students to work out for a particular amount of time. So you assign your student, that the student needs some more practice in certain skills, say, work on this for 15 minutes tonight. And you're gonna get a report knowing they worked on it for 15 minutes and letting you know what they got right and wrong, and how many problems they got through.
And if they start missing several in a row, I just tell them stop. Don't keep missing problems, stop and you can watch a video. And then you can go back and try again. Yes?
When you create an assignment, and it
Do you
says
mind if 1 second?
select all,
Can I just, finish this and then we'll go to that?
oh, I
Is
thought
that-
we already skipped, I thought you already covered that.
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. When I started, all I talked about so far was skills training.
Oh,
So-
okay, I'm sorry.
No, please don't apologize. I just want to try to keep us in the same place because it's hard to concentrate on a couple different things. Are we okay with skills trainer? Okay, great. Alrighty, so let's look at assignments. So when I click on assignments, over here on the right, this red rectangle, I can create a new assignment. Do I want it to be a practice? Those are the problems in the textbook, or do I want to make an assessment? So first, let's just try a practice assignment. And when I clicked on practice, now I'm over here in my Common Core edition. If you wanted to, You could go to modeling real life, which would give you the K through 5 as well. You can select any chapter that you want. We looked at ratios and proportions, and you can select any lesson that you want. We were looking at 5.5. And up pops those two self-assessment. Remember the self-assessment for problem solving and concepts and skills, or all the exercises. Don't click on that assign over on the right. That'll assign every problem. If you want to pick, just click somewhere in the bar, and then you can designate just the evens, just the odds, the day 2 assignment from Lori, day 1 or 2, or emerging, proficient, advanced, depth of knowledge 1, 2, or 3. And you can pick whatever you want. Now, did I get to your question yet, or are we still heading there?
No, we're still going there.
Okay.
It says select all, so that's for all 100 of my kids. Is it broken down into, can I break it down into 4 chunks?
Yes. So first of all, that select all means select all problems right now.
Okay.
So right now, I'm just picking what problems.
Okay.
So let's say that I pick, 4 or 5 problems, just to get things rolling. And then I scroll back up to the top and I say add it to my assignment.
Okay.
And then I can go, if I want to, remember I said I could go back and I could put some problems in from 5.3. Or I could put some problems in from 5.4, just to review. So I do that, and I scroll back up to the top. I don't see, here's a tutor problem. That's what those look like. If I pick a problem that I could get that access.
That's a pointer, yeah.
And then, again, add those to my assignment. And I now have 7 problems. I had 3, I think, before, and 4 this time, or vice versa. And so I'm ready to assign this. So I click on assign, and I'm going to call this lesson 5.5 and extras with 1 team. Alrighty, and I can click, now you can see here, I could clear them, I can delete them if I don't like them. I have lots of choices. Okay, so I say, no, I like this, let's assign it. And so it says, okay, and it says, like that's my book, pick a chapter, because what this is gonna do, which this is new, it's gonna save all of these for you.
Yeah.
So if I love this, it's gonna be in my library. Next year I can just say, 5.5 lesson, boom. Just pull it up and assign it again. So I put a chapter, because what this does is it saves it in my library, but it puts it like into folders, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. I could even put like combo problem or review so that they'd be in another folder. Whatever I would like to do. And then I click assign. Now I think this is where your question comes up about who I assign this to.
Right.
Because I was going to have you guys join my class, remember? So if you'd all joined my class, all your names would be there right now.
Right.
And I would pick, I want Joanne, Tom, Marion, and Phyllis to do this assignment. And then I could go make another assignment and give this to 5 other people. And then I could go make another assignment and give that to 2 more. I can do this any way I want to any group I want.
Okay.
So Judy, I would save it as like, you could do like 5.2.
So if I had 3 classes doing 1 assignment, so then I have to individually pick.
You can just select all students.
That's what I said to you.
I'm sorry.
So if you select, don't mind me, my mind, that's the way I work. I don't mean to be, if I select all students.
Judy's nice.
I am nice.
I don't doubt that for 1 second.
But I have 3 classes that are gonna do this assignment. And I have 1 class that's not doing that assignment, they're doing a different assignment. How do I separate them?
Because you're gonna make this assignment for each class separately.
Oh, you do have to make it
But-
each class separate. But if you save it, then you just have to click it over?
Then you just go in, like you're gonna see a queue. Once you start to make this assignment, you're gonna see a little thing up there at the top where you can add period 2,
Okay,
add period 3.
okay.
And when you add period 2, then you get to select students again. So you could select to give that to all of my students or just some of my students. Maybe you've got a redbirds, bluebirds, blackbirds assignment.
Mhm.
So that red, blue, black assignments goes in and I can use it for period 1, period 3, and period 4. And I can pick who I want in each of those. I don't have to redo the whole thing. It comes up again and I pick who I want to give it to.
Okay.
It's right at the top here, I think right here, I put in more than one class, click and then all the options.
Yep.
We just put in class.
Is that-
Essentially, we just-
Yep. Okay.
So I hope I'm giving you answers that I think
Yes.
is what you were hoping to hear.
Yes.
Because we're trying to make things easy.
Yeah,
It
no,
is.
I was just looking at how I would differentiate, because like I have, and not really an IEP, classroom,
Sure.
and they are low. So I don't think I would attach, I would do more simpler problems with them, where the math is nice, so they can learn the
Agree.
process.
Yep, and then
Do
you
you
get
mean-
up to grade level work, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
And so you would have access if you needed to, I mean, I'm not telling you teach 3rd grade stuff in your 6th grade class, you know, I would not.
No, I
Act
would
like
like
I
them
do
to learn
that,
the
but-
process, but I don't want them struggling with the numbers, that's
Agreed.
what I was saying.
Agreed. And so you can choose the problems that are most appropriate for your students.
Yeah.
And just assign those problems to whichever students that you want. You can make this as simple by selecting every problem, every kid, or making an assignment and selecting every student, or just selecting 2 or 3, make another assignment for these 3 or 4. It's intended to be very helpful to a situation, especially like yours.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm noticing, and look, I'm not on the same section, but,
I need to go to my flip too.
No. But say in an assignment, one of the choices that I see at the very, how would you rate your understanding is one of the questions?
Okay, so you're in dynamic classroom now.
Oh,
That's
I'm not
okay.
in homework,
So she's in the signing right now.
in the assignments?
Well, how does it
Well,
say, how would
it's
you
a-
rate?
How would you rate your understanding, which I think is awesome. But
Okay,
how does
so that is gonna be, there are going to be, open response questions
Okay.
among the assignments you can do online. And so when the students have that, where they're typing in,
Yeah.
then when you look at the reports,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a little indicator, it's got kind of wavy lines, and you click on each child to see what they did, and then you give them,
Okay, and that's what, how would I, so basically it's the wavy lines and I go in and look. I wanted to know how this would be reported
yeah, I'm
to
kind of
me.
surprised, can you scroll down just a little bit?
That's as far
maybe?
down, but it's.
Oh, because of how many it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's only a
That's
small
okay.
section, but I like it.
It's okay. On some of the times, they will have something that indicates this is a, open response question.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people got upset, like, what do you mean I have to grade these? I thought these were all graded for me online. It's like, unless you pick one
Okay.
that's like this,
Sure.
you know? So you just don't pick open response if you don't wanna have to grade open
How
response.
can you find them in here, like, if I wanna see one? Is there a symbol, is there a way?
No,
So
it's just gonna be within, it's probably gonna be further towards the end of the problem more than, it'll be ones that, you know, say something about explain your reasoning. And it could be like one of those problems that was maybe the teacher, they're the exact same problem.
Oh, so I can just find one here.
So I would maybe look at one that, keep going into the.
It's almost like a study guide, like I would
Yeah,
almost.
like maybe you be the teacher, that one might be where they
Explain your
would,
reasoning.
yeah.
So they're not really open response. Like,
Well,
we're
they're open
thinking,
response like we talked about.
yeah, we think of like a multi-step process.
Which you might get into more with some of these deeper ones.
Right.
Okay, so say estimate this, you know, why is this, what is the risk? And then, look at the dig deeper.
Yeah, okay, good.
Thanks for asking.
I'm looking, how, what are you going to say?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And it's a very dumb question.
So I thought, oh,
Can
let
we
me see
use
what this
kids'
would look like.
Google
But I like it
emails
on
to log
time.
in?
I know, because it's not all just fill in the blank and.
No, but if a student's struggling, I like to know.
What?
That's what
That's
she's
good.
explaining.
I'm glad DOK stands for.
Depth
According
of
to Mark,
knowledge.
the district should be
Like, as soon as
adopting
someone
it.
says it.
I know.
exactly what it is.
It's just like
So,
depth of
it's
knowledge.
Google Clever, yes, if you're
I've
Google
seen
School,
it before.
so I think you're asking,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you, Google School.
Yes, and their usernames would be their.
The other thing I wanted to ask.
So what Clever does is it almost makes their Chromebook, for me, when I look at it, it makes their Chromebook almost look like an iPad.
You know,
So they have all those icons.
I'd say
So they'll have one, at the younger level, they probably do like bystander and stuff like that, so they might
So
have
when I
like
do
much
a
to do
digital
with
process,
they could do it right on the computer. So what Clever does is students log in.
if I'm teaching them a skill,
It
one of my
automatically
concerns
downloads
is that, here's an example, I need
It's a
lost
class.
or, maybe not for a slope activity of fraction, but so many fractional numbers that.
Let me-
Code would go away. Yes. You have two options. There's an access code where we did this now, and then you share your class as an access code, and you share that access with the students, and they sign in.
So we'll be able to share the access with them.
That's self-registration. What we're talking about doing is syncing your system with Clever, and then it automatically will roster the students and update your classes.
That'd be great. Oh,
So
and
that's
that's
going to be password.
it actually logs this, it actually merges like the aspect of
Exactly.
that. Okay.
So there would be no access code.
Because that has just
That's a hot
been
mess.
That's the same in so many districts, and that's why we have Clever, and we let you have Clever for free. We worked out a thing with them, so that you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of districts that use it right around here.
I have a question about, like how we can make problems at a simpler level, for some of the students. So I've got two suggestions, and I also want to say, we've got a little video that's just been created recently that really walks you through click here, kind of a thing that I think might also be helpful to you. And Krista, if it's okay, I'll give it a chance to send it to you, and then you can pass out that link. But if I get out of the assignment page, and I go back and I click on my hamburger again, and I go to resources. These are the online resources, and you asked me a question about, can I see that reteach page, okay? Among the resources that we have available, and again, you guys, you've got every book you have access to, every grade level. You want to click on the Modeling Real Life. The Modeling Real Life, MRL, that's going to give you K through 8th grade. But when I'm in this, I pick my grade level, and I can just leave I don't have to pick a specific chapter. But if I click on this RTI, this tiered intervention, if I click on that RTI, it's going to kind of drill down, and differentiating the lesson is something that we talked about earlier. And here's resources by chapter, but let me show you differentiating the lesson first. Because differentiating the lesson, this is where within each of the sections, we have additional, sorry, I did that too fast. We have additional lessons that we've already created that are on a simpler scale. And we not only have, I mean, it's really different strategies, different ways to look at things. Procedure, distribute this, display that, hold up this, do that. I mean, it just kind of walks you through. And one of the features of each of these is that whenever possible, we also include some problems that have simpler numbers, so that you could work with those simpler numbers first to get the idea, and then go back to your grade level appropriate numbers. So that differentiating the lesson, I mentioned before something along the lines that's like best friend to our support teachers, but there's always a lesson or two where everybody needs that extra support. So differentiating the lesson is where you're going to find that. And sometimes even some additional practice problems that would just, again, be something that's better for your students and that makes it simpler. But besides that, differentiating the lesson, we also do have this resources by chapter. And within this, let's see, I'm going to pick a chapter. and do this.
Do you have the tutorial?
I'm sorry?
I asked if you had the tutorials, so with the lesson that they could do, to reiterate the instruction, the tutorials.
There is a tutorial for every single example in your textbook. Yes.
So it reteaches them like at home and saying if the kids
Yes,
are white or
every single example, they can go on their dynamic classroom, or they can go in their ebook, either one of those, whichever resource is more simple for them to navigate. Both of them for every single example has a tutorial video. Yep, thank you for asking. So in this resources by chapter, if I open,
And then you can bundle.
I will be able to see the extra problems that are available.
If you did digital workbook, that actually.
And this is at a chapter level, so it's gonna be every section.
93, it would be
But
digital.
this is where you'll also find like the warm-ups, it's like a family letter first, and then your learning targets and success criteria again.
Yes. So it's always
Letter in Spanish, not Portuguese,
most expensive.
okay?
We just
And
have
then-
answers, credits, and front matter.
Pardon?
Under resources by chapter, we just have.
Because you didn't pick a chapter, I probably did that too fast.
Yeah.
If you pick a chapter,
You're getting a lot of schools.
then
class
you'll be there.
Quoting
So here's the
purposes,
page
there was
that
some
is extra practice, so this is pretty much just like what's in the book, maybe just a little bit different, as far as difficulty level, but it's pretty much just like the textbook. But here's that reteach. And that reteach is intended to be more of a tiered intervention, like as another support for students who are struggling. And you're gonna have your key ideas, again, written maybe in a little bit simpler numbers, simpler way, etc. And this is also where, when you look at some of these problems, they're going to be using simpler numbers to support that idea for students who struggle.
So we got rid of the resource eight, like 5A and 5B.
That is correct. Instead of A and B, we now have reteach and practice.
Can you assign those online digitally or no? Those
Not
are just-
right now.
Okay, just wondering.
No, it's okay. I think it's a good suggestion. And the more people like you ask me that, then the more I get to bug tech, that people would really
Because I
love
do
this.
make copies of that. See, that's what I do for homework. I actually make a copy of that, the resource, and I attach a tutorial with it. So I can't do direct.
Well, not yet.
Okay.
You know Carol Dweck, you know her, she does a lot with differentiation, and that's how she ends her sentences. You know, like
Oh, yeah.
teachers say, my kids can't add fractions. And I always make my teachers say, yet. You know,
Yeah.
just like I say that with our tech,
Okay.
you know, right now, you know, you can't assign resources by chapter yet, because I'm keeping
So
that
the
door
only thing you
open.
can assign is if you create an assignment.
You can create assessments. Right now, if you're in
Yeah.
assignments, the only thing you can assign is the assignment from the book. But the new part is you do have access to every section, every lesson. Okay? But if you are creating an assessment, remember when I was there in assignments and I could either pick practice or assessment?
Yeah.
If I pick assessment, I can make my own problems. And currently, they're more along the lines, this is what Chance was saying earlier, they're more along the lines of fill in the blank
Okay.
kinds of problems. But that's something we're already working toward, that they're gonna be also like multiple choice, multiple select, so that students are getting that kind of practice too. We get it, that, you know, when they have to do things online, they need practice in technology enhanced items. And so we're trying to, you know, create that opportunity. So you, like right now, if you make an assessment online, you have no choices. It's just, you do this quiz or you do this test. Teachers totally hated that. And I totally understand why. Because you know what you've done and you know what you're assessing and where you're going, and you'd like to create your own assessments. It's just normal. And so in our new program, you can do that. We give you a bank to choose from. and you can also make up your own. Yes,
If you post like a homework assignment,
uh-huh,
I think it said that there's like an assigned date and a due date or whatever.
Yep.
So in a perfect world, you assign homework Monday, you want to do on Tuesday. So if they don't do it, will it still let them do it? Will it like take off points or whatever? Or will it
It
just
turns-
close it out and just be like, oh well, you didn't do it?
it's still there
Okay.
until you collect it,
Okay.
you know, like for everybody, cause like maybe you're gonna say like, I always give them one more day.
Yeah.
And then I was nice cause so-and-so was absent, but that was last week, if it's not done, it's not done, then just zip, you just collect it, and if they're not done, too bad.
And we'll just say
Okay.
they didn't do it.
But otherwise, if it's due today and they don't turn it in until Tuesday, you'll be able to tell when you look because it'll have like a little indicator that it was turned in late. It won't be graded down, that's up to you. You know, because different people want different things.
Right.
And there's all kinds of teachers that, you know, keep their homework real open-ended. And they can have the whole quarter, the whole chapter, whatever, to turn things in. So we try to make it fit everybody's needs. So, you know, and when we come in, we should, you know, when you move forward with this, we need to set up a training and we need to sit down and have a day and we just play with this. And see how does this work and how is this different and think about how I would make this work for me. And it's something that we really see as a value. And we can spend all day with you. We can spend the morning kind of talking about the print resources and start into the technology and then do technology for the afternoon, because there's a lot there. And a lot that you might talk to each other and I see us doing this, I see us trying that. And you don't try to use every resource at once because it's totally overwhelming because there's so much. But you pick and choose, and then like I mentioned earlier, we come back in October or November, how are things going? Can you take on something new? Did you forget that we even talked about this before? Let's see about, maybe it might meet something you need now. There's lots of ways to move forward, and I think Chance mentioned this earlier too. You know, we make changes to the technology all the time, and by changes, I don't mean things that are gonna make you crazy. I mean things that you're gonna say, I really wish we could assign resources by chapter. And so maybe one bright day, you look on our blog or you look at a big banner at the top of the website page and it says, resources by chapter now available to be assigned online. You know, so we do listen. I'm not promising you anything, but I'm saying we listen and we adjust and try to do what you need. That's what we want to do. We want to support you. We love math. We want all kids to love math, you know, so we want to give them the support they need so they feel confident and they can grow.
I have another question, sorry. I don't know if you're gonna get to this or not, but you're saying if you put dynamic classroom up on the board, they can all have it on their screen as well?
Mhm.
And so if you click on the warm up and they click on it, it will let them do it or whatever?
Yep.
And then you can see the results. Does it show all the kids' names and stuff, or does it assign them like a number?
It does, it will either show their names or you can hide their names.
Okay, that's
Whichever
what I was
way
gonna
you'd
say.
like to do it, but then they already know alphabetical order. Who's
No,
number
that's
one.
true.
That's okay. But you can hide that.
Yeah, I blow it up on the screen so that their names are to the side.
Oh, I see.
But I leave that last letter of the one.
Whatever works. I mean, you know, you mentioned earlier, in a perfect world, okay? In a perfect world, I would want my class to all care about each other, you know? And if I see that Krista missed number 2, you know, I might say, Krista, what'd you do? You know, or, you know, if I look at that and say, yeah, I can't get number 2, and someone, or let me show you. Let's, you know, I mean, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I want kids to get past that. You know, you see all kinds of signs about, you know, like mistakes are proof you're trying, you know, and failure is, you know, your first lesson. I mean, there's all kinds of things. If we really got our kids to think that way and to think that my job is to figure out where you are and to help you move, help you grow, them seeing each other's names would just be another reason to work together. Yes?
Can you actually pick a student out and put their work up?
It's not something that can be done within this program right now.
Okay.
If you have that capability, like some schools do, have that capability because of the devices that they use.
Erica, what are those we were talking about? Oh, I'm sorry, whatever we were talking about, and Mike, I don't know if you would know any better actually, how we used to be able to have the kids' Chromebooks project.
Right.
Cast.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to do it. Can you do it?
Yeah.
I haven't been able to. Everyone got it just wrong. tried it Everyone's recently, I couldn't response do is it. weak.
So,
And you have one that's Excel. You'd like to be able to put it up
It would be nice.
and just show, this is what, 100 looks like, this is what a 4 looks like, this is what.
so I had Cardi B.
I
on
just
my
saw
screen,
something that I think people might wanna see.
and I'm like,
Okay.
In the tools,
Yes?
the number line,
So,
how you can show the jumps.
Yep. So you were in the math tools
Mm-hmm.
and middle school number line.
Mm-hmm.
And you are correct in that you can change the scale, the intervals. You can do it with whole numbers, fractions, decimals.
But that's not the good part.
What else can they do?
To your right, the jumps. The arrows on your
Oh,
right.
little arrows down bottom
Oh,
left.
I see what she's talking about on the bottom right then.
So our kids struggle with adding and subtracting integers, and they're always looking up on the wall, counting up and down with their finger going like this. Not this finger, this finger.
That's, are we still on tape?
Pardon me?
Are we still being taped?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm behind the
Oh,
camera.
okay, well, but you kind of said something, so I can. Because our flip to, when you do that flip to, you click on it, and then you get the list of all your students. And I
That
say
you
you
flip?
choose the students you want to flip off. The students you need to flip to that
Oh,
particular
that's funny.
lesson. So it's kind of like, we're all just middle school, right? Just
So
middle
these
school.
the kids can bring this up too, so if you're teaching number lines, you're like, all right,
Yes.
everybody go to tools,
Yes,
bring up a number line.
absolutely.
But drag the blue jump.
Jeez.
I know, I'm bossy. But this is the good thing, like, this is what they struggle with.
Yeah,
You gotta click off of your.
I can do all kinds of things and move in all kinds of directions.
So as they're trying to count up and down, starting at this spot,
I can
add
even
5
do
minus
additional
10.
jumps.
Ooh, that's overwhelming. What did you do?
She added extra jumps.
I know. What?
She added extra jumps.
I just was clicking just to show, like, there's so much they can do.
Oh, I see.
And what's cool with these tools is that's part of that investigative thing. That's part of them figuring out math rules, if you will, rather than us just asking them to memorize. I love the number line more than anything on adding and subtracting integers because, like the signs are the same, add the numbers and keep the same sign. The signs are different, so subtract the numbers and keep the sign, blah, 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 blah. Who remembers that? Nobody. But if I've used red and yellow integer chips, and I really see what happens when I add or subtract, or if I use a number line and I see what happens with simple numbers, then I have an understanding that I can apply to more complicated numbers. That's really what we're trying to do. There's a lot more tools online. And adding the K-5 series was like one of the biggest things we've done to impact and improve what we can do in 6, 7, 8, because you have access to all of those K-5 tools that are nice carryover.
Look at that. Well, I just clicked on the
Just take you
K5.
on the road with me, don't I? Yeah, you're right. You have access to, and what you're looking at, your students will see too. If you want to, like you guys created a class, right? When you started, go in and make a pretend student if you want to see what a student sees. But I can tell you, it's almost exactly what you see as a teacher. Your dynamic classroom is going to look just a little bit different than theirs because you have the data collection that you can do. But otherwise, it's just really, really similar.
Well, you have to support students who don't know their times tables and they're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade.
A calculator.
Not the first half of the year.
You can,
Oh, yeah, is there like a multiplication chart that you can?
There's things
or
like,
games or
go,
something?
yeah, there's
Can
all
you do
kinds of
that?
games, like if you go to the,
Hot dog?
skills trainer,
Hamburger?
or if you go to the,
There's flashcards in
game
K to
closet.
5.
Aw.
If you go to the game library and pick 3rd grade,
Please
highly
shall go.
grade this.
you can have all kinds of multiplication flip and find. You know, there's all kinds of. Flipping stuff.
You can't do that one.
Well, it's a game, you're being 2-player.
Find the matching cards.
Battle.
Oh, it's like memory.
That's not it. Try again.
Ooh, that's too hard.
I want memory though, I want just.
Yeah, this is more memory than.
Yeah, we don't want
Look at
multiple.
this.
Memory.
And find the
So not
matching
memory.
cards.
Different
Okay.
game.
I just clicked one, but
Wait, go to none.
not memory. Let's see.
Can you
Let's see.
tell how long students spend on that?
Do I know? No. There's no information about that yet.
3 in a row multiplication, what's that? Top left. So it's just 3 in a row multiplication,
Why can I not read?
left.
It's the
Gotcha.
second one over from the.
My other left. Thank you. So those are going to be kind of like.
Spin the spinners.
What the?
Oh.
Oh, they have to multiply and get 3 in a row.
2
Put
times
your
7.
counter on the right answer.
Okay, I'm gonna miss it. Oh, move my counter, sorry. Follow directions.
Why?
Okay, so I missed it. Oh, they're not gonna let me.
That's it.
You're playing, I put like one player, so I'm playing against the computer this way. I wanted to miss one because when you miss them, they often will give you hints. This might not be one that does, but it often gives you a hint that doesn't tell you the answer, but helps you to figure out what the correct answer should be. This one just doesn't seem to be one that does that. All right, so 10 times.
I'm doing memory.
Put your counter on the right answer.
I must have clicked no help. Sorry. Because sometimes it will give you like little
That's it.
hints. Of course, robot guy gets them right every time. Yes.
Can I ask another question about the dynamic classroom, just because I use that like every day? So you know how you said they can bring it up, they can do the warm up or whatever.
Yep.
So I'm old school here. So say it was multiplying fractions or whatever, and I want them to show their work. That they won't be able to do, right? So they'd have to do it on a piece of paper, and then is it like multiple choice, or they type in their answer?
What are we talking about? Are we
Like say it was
talking
like
about the
multiplying fractions. Say that was the warm up on dynamic classroom. So they would do it out on a piece of paper and then just type in their answer, or would it be
Yes.
like a multiple choice, or?
So like here's the warm up,
Yeah.
and I just click start, and then it's going to ask me what is -3 3/10 divided by 2 2/10.
Okay, so they would do it on a piece of paper and then type in
And
their
then I
answer.
type in the answer.
Got it. Okay.
Thanks for
Same
asking.
pretty much for the online homework then, right?
Yes.
So I'd have them. bring
Yeah,
it.
I would recommend that. I tell everybody, always make them do it on paper, because really when you're taking in the MCAS, you're gonna be doing paper. You gotta get used to that transferring down here and then looking at the screen. It kinda gets you conditioned to do that. And it's good practice. You wanna be able to review what they do.
Right.
I don't think that online's ever gonna fully replace pencil and paper when it comes to
Right,
doing
so
it.
I would require them to show bring in a piece of paper with their work, because otherwise I feel like
Correct.
some of my kids would just write random answers or whatever.
Right,
if it's
and then
multiple
they
choice,
just
click
click on
something.
anything.
Right, exactly, okay.
And this, when I click on this little bar, then that's where it will tell me, like I don't have any info because we didn't be in my class. But this is where I would get info about the warm-ups or the explorations or the monitoring progress with try-its.
Does that pop up live, like if you put it on the warm up as they're submitting their answers, is it like popping up or no?
You have to, it doesn't do it, you have to refresh. Like I usually just wait and say, I'm gonna start putting this up, you know, how we doing? And I might, but then it's not gonna continue to pop up, I'm gonna have to refresh it to get it to continue. These are great questions, you guys. I can tell that you have some great ideas from things you've done before, and now you have some new tools. You know, we're what can we do with this? Where can we go with this? I'm pretty excited. I feel like Big Ideas has always had great things for instruction and learning, but I feel like the technology is the area where we could improve. And I feel like we listened to people and we made some really good changes in what's available. We listened for print-wise and cut down the time you spend on the activities and put more time into application, because that's really important. But then the technology, we listened, and you can create your own assessments, you can choose problems from multiple sections, you save your work. Next year, also this is like, okay, just a little teaser, but August, you're supposed to be able to share assignments among colleagues. So if one 7th grade teacher makes assignments, then they could share that with all the 7th grade teachers.
Yeah, I think we're about time. Well, we're able to stay and answer as many questions. I know you want to be mindful of your time and respectful of your end of your day. I'm available anytime, guys. Webinar, Chris has my information, so if there's something you forget today and you want to jump on a webinar one morning or an afternoon, feel free to reach out to me.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And the books are yours to keep.